It's Dandadan, the show where we talk about Dandadan, a manga about the Dum-Da-Dums. I'm so happy to be wrong! I'm not sure if any of you are keeping tally, but we really should get together like a community, like a spreadsheet on all of our theories and our track records and explicitly how bad mine are. But this chapter not only has a great space whale being crushed by gravity, but Turbo Granny is back! Oh, bro, I've waited so long. Sorry for being screechy today. I'm so hot. 219 picks up directly from 218. And honestly, I just want to skip to the end of the chapter, but I gotta be patient. We need patience. So as Mr. Dris disintegrates into mummy dust, the kids are in awe as its dust arises into a gigantic space well. Now, this part plays directly into a couple chapters ago when Momo and Okarun went on that date, and Okarun gushed to Momo about this theory where aliens were using the bodies of ancient pharaohs, or, well, human bodies, because without them, they cannot survive Earth's atmosphere. It's a really neat theory that does get the mind flowing with all sorts of interesting thoughts. And as this happens, the roads finally come back, so Momo and Okarun don't need to cling on to the road signs. And after they are freaked out by the sight of this insanely massive whale that spans, by the way, multiple households with electricity sparking off of it, I am not sure how Tatsu and his team are able to make this art so good for a weekly manga, but I am grateful for it. And I'll leave the secrets to the professionals. But seeing the grooves and the patterns on the whale and the eyes really stuck out to me. If you notice, it has that Egyptian pattern, which maybe why it goes after the mummies from ancient times, or it could just be a stylistic choice that happens to, line up. No idea, but I am just, God, I am so grateful for Tatsu and his team and just Dandadan and just, God, this series makes me so happy. But that doesn't mean the kids aren't out of the woods yet. Mr. Dris begins to fall to the ground, and because they're still wrapped up in linen wraps, they can't separate from one another just yet. So they must instead pull out the Ogre Club. And with the help of Momo, who visualizes her ki, it sends out this incredible beam of ki energy just as Mr. Dris falls to the ground, while crushing everything. And this, God, this quality, you guys. What in the hell? I mean, look at this. The scale on display here, that couldn't have been easy to do. And then to, on top of that, show Mr. Dris colliding with these buildings and seeing the dust plumes and debris and the wood splintering from the houses or the clay tiles on top of the building's roofs. My brain balls are in disbelief. My bipolar is kicking in. Even the background is insane when you start to look closer. I mean, there are just so many different varieties of buildings and trees and spots that are almost impossible to notice without a fine-tuned comb. What is this shot? It was insane! So, as it all comes tumbling down, the Serpo loses again like some Scooby-Doo villain of the week. They curse Mr. Dris for exiting his body, as they told him before what would happen if he did so. Now, in my head, I like to think the Serpo, when they were talking to him, they're in space and they see Mr. Dris and they're just talking like any other person, just like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Dris, wanna help us turbo murder children?" Oh, thank God! I thought you'd never ask. Yeah, sure. That's how I imagine it going. But anyways, back to reality. Mr. Dris suffers a fate worse than death, if you ask me. He is crushed to death by Earth's gravity. And let me tell you, I haven't talked about it yet, but this art is incredible and a bit morbid in a way. Mr. Dris begins to bubble up as he is about to rupture from the inside. He then explodes with just insane detail, like the bulging eyes, which get their own little detail that I like, by the way. We can see that the flesh that was once surrounding the eye still has that little mark there to make it look like, Egyptian or whatever. But for the most part, all of its meat goes everywhere and just cakes the place. Now, this actually reminded me of something really weird. It reminded me of that first episode of Kaiju number 8 where it exploded and caked an entire prefecture in blood and guts. Man, that's by the way, that's a good thing. I know a lot of people don't like Kaiju number 8, but that's an actual good thing to be compared to. I don't know, man. That shot, dude, where you see that hollowed out body of Mr. Dris with that utility pole sticking out, really does make that shot work and shows just how much of his body is covering up stuff. I mean, think about it. Under that is an entire street. How did they do this? Did they summon Satan and did he grant them a wish? But afterwards, both Okarun and Momo, they're just relieved that it is all over because they successfully survived this insane encounter. Now, I love the detail. A lot of details I'm loving here, but of Momo being totally impressed with Okarun and even being grateful, telling him that this was all thanks to him. But, you know, even then, Okarun, he's a humble little bean, giving all of that credit to Momo, pointing out that even without her memories, she is still the same person, which, you know, I think is that's something I've noticed in prior chapters as well. Even without her memories, Momo is she is the same, basically. So she would be bound to make the same decisions and especially conclusions. And because of that, and of course thanks to Okarun as well, they both made it out alive. She just acted naturally. But I mean, God, I also love that cute moment when Okarun is just so happy she's the same, relieved that she is safe. A part of me thinks that expression she makes during this partly, you know, this one of disbelief is there because I hope she is starting to put some pieces in her head together as to who Okarun was. And I think it may be safe to say that at this point, Okarun can be 100% trusted by her, and I don't know if she'll think twice about trusting him again. I mean, I know if it were me, I'd trust Okarun with my children at this point. And, oh God, it is just so freaking totes, I can't even. Momo is a bit wobbly and can't walk after, so Okarun offers her a piggyback since he's used to carrying her. And, you know, I gotta say here, I gotta make this comment. I can see why Okarun initially failed to convince Momo to trust him. I think Momo is a person who cannot trust words and really does need to see it proven in front of her eyes. In other words, she needs to see that person take the action and not take words. I can't believe this just clocked in my head after 219 chapters that maybe because of her experience being bullied, this likely led her to seek out these manly men, not because they look traditionally manly, but because they act traditionally manly. They have chivalry. They have respect for other people, which, yeah, I know that idea is a bit hard to believe really exists in this day and age. It really is an ideal, but I think there are hints of truth in these ideals, right? I think people do, even the worst people have those kinds of qualities to them in there somewhere. I don't know, maybe that's a glass half full perspective, but Okarun visually doesn't look the part, but on the inside, deep down, he is the part. I mean, you know, in this day and age, tough guys and strong men are seen as desirable or admirable. Admirable maybe is a wrong word, but we have this thing in our head of what men should be. But I think Dandadan portrays a more realistic side to it, not just that fairy tale we all have in our head of what we want in a man. People don't really care, I think, at the end of the day, about how good looking, how rich, or how great of a job a person has. I don't think any of that stuff matters. I think the way Tatsu portrays it is they just want to believe in someone. And I think believing means putting trust into that person. And I think that's what this arc was about. It was about Momo believing Okarun to be the part and not simply act the part. And I think Okarun exemplifies this manly dynamic that he has going on almost perfectly, as probably perfectly as you would realistically see it in existence in our real life going on right now. This is a true to life, I think, representation of what being a man looks like. And you know what? I think in a way it's the same for Momo too. She's not that airheaded Gyaru. She's freaking Momo Ayase, and you know this. You know what comes with me saying she is freaking Momo Ayase. So it goes both ways. But here we go, baby! before we jump into this last bit of the chapter and get into theories, I gotta see if we can get the likes, the subs, the comments. Let's see if we can get all of that up for this video. It would be an amazing early Christmas present if you could. This was a very big chapter, so it's seeing as next Monday there will be no new chapter. This is probably your best time to subscribe, so when the algorithm comes around again, it won't screw you over, especially if you like hearing me screech and crackle and pop. Alrighty, deep breath. And a surprise I didn't see coming, as we'll talk about here in literally a second, we shift our perspective to the hospital where we see a sleeping Seiko Ayase wake up. Now, first of all, I love the detail that the first thing she does when opening her eyes is put on her glasses. I think people who wear glasses, like me, know the pain very well. This right here is a true granny. This is what grannies do. And so in the middle of the night, she looks down to the feet of her bed and sees a sleeping... Wait a moment. Am I dreaming? Is that Turbo Granny? Guys! Is that Turbo Granny? She's back! The goat is back! Oh, that last chapter, she was... Oh. She hasn't been in the series since chapter 165. And, by the way, just so you know, Chapter 165 was on September 9th, 2024. That was the second chapter I've ever covered with Dandadan at that point. That was my second video. That was 1 year, 84 days, and around 20 hours and however many minutes since we were last blessed with Turbo Granny's grace. And I am just so freaking happy to be wrong about my theory. I thought for sure this cat would appear like a year from now, but... Nah, Tatu isn't playing around, and he felt that he, maybe made us wait long enough, and we deserve this, which is fair. My excuse for why I was wrong, which really isn't one, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but just, probably what I was thinking at the time. I have been recently diving back into One Piece's manga. I've been trying to get caught up because I'm hearing a lot of great things about it, and I dropped it for a while. So I am in full One Piece mode at the moment, and as we know, there's a lot of comparisons between Dandadan and One Piece. So I think that's, I was thinking maybe too long term. But aren't we lucky because we even get to see her speak, which gives us some pretty big clues as to where she has been. Seiko asks if she ate well, which she expresses with this joyous face that she has been around the world eating all of its delicious foods. Now, Seiko, she's just relieved and probably happy that she just got her best friend back and isn't alone anymore. And for a while there, Seiko felt like she was missing something, and I think that maybe because Turbo Granny wasn't around with the other Granny just to relate to and laugh at Bakatono with. And so she leaves us with a nice reminder that she is still Turbo Granny, my friends. She tells Seiko that despite the tasty food, that all the shitheads really aren't to her taste. Which, this is what she would say, because this is what my grandmother used to say all of the time. May she rest in peace. So let's jump into some theories. First of all, I am so glad I was wrong about, the amount of time that Turbo Granny would be out of the story. Most viewers will know that I am wrong, I'll say 90% of my theories. And honestly, life was really trying to give me a big ego during this recent stretch of time. Probably just some outliers. Either way, let's theorize where Turbo Granny might have been all of this time. I think for one, she's been around the world as evident by her verbiage, but if we go back to chapter 165, which is her last appearance, we get a bit more context and maybe an idea of where she was headed and her reasons. Now, looking back, this moment was a bit sudden and out of nowhere, which at the time, it didn't really feel like that, but I guess, that's what it is. As soon as Okarun got his nut, Granny split. Now, it's a really peculiar kind of thing to notice, a detail. There was a solemn look on her face right before or during the ritual. It almost seemed like she was scared to separate from Okarun or at least go through this ritual. So, I don't know. Here's my theory on what this might have been and a simple reason to why she split. Wild guess, obviously, and one that is much more personal than simply being a part of the grand plot, which I find interesting. If we remember correctly, since the beginning of the series, Baba has been guarding a tunnel pretty much. Because of this, she has been constrained to one local area for much of her existence, or maybe even all of it. And her goal was to simply protect young schoolgirls and the spirits that were already there due to the earthbound crab. What if, through experiencing life with these single-celled organisms known as the Dum-Da-Dums, that she got a taste of what everyone really wants? Freedom to explore and travel. So after she separated from Okarun, this was maybe the right time for her to go out into the world and experience life. It would also explain why she was scared during the ritual. Maybe she found some sort of comfort in the warmth that the kids brought to her life. This would also explain why she was so happy when returning to Seiko's side. She simply found out that while the world was full of rich experiences, nothing could truly beat the home sweet home that was Seiko and those dumbasses. Now, that being said, I went back a couple of chapters, and the only other suggestions I could find would be Turbo Granny's mentioning of Jeremy here and there. So here is my second part of my theory. What if she went around the world to find more information on Jeremy and to as well gather potential experiences to seek out something that would make her stronger and or help the kids become stronger? Now, this could be something because Jeremy is an absolute threat. And with Baba back in the picture, I feel like things with him are about to get sizzling in the plot. Now, this is yet another instance where we'll just have to wait and see, of course, but I imagine in the next couple of chapters, we will see things progress, hopefully very far in this department, relatively speaking. Another thing that we saw in this chapter is we got more Momo Ayase moments in this chapter, just not the kind of moments you maybe were expecting. For one, Okarun gets a face full of Momo's chest. Momo wraps her legs around him, which then leads into this position. But let's also not forget this moment, where Momo tells Okarun to get it out. And of course, ending with the classic. Simply put, Christ on a cracker, man. I haven't seen this much sexual tension since Denji and every single woman he's interacted with. Obviously, this is a bit of fan service for those who are into it. And I'm not one to complain about throwing a bone or two to the fans, not in a weird way, mind you. I just think this is really funny and as a total wink and nod to those people wanting Momo and Okarun to just get it over with already, so to speak. Thematically, it serves a purpose as well. It shows that the two, more or less, really are compatible when it comes to at least Key and working together. Yeah. And also, it's just hilarious and stupid, which I think is about 80% of the charm of this series. Stupidity. Which may be why I like this series so much. Dandadan is just like me, for real, for real. So let's take a second to go to my Discord server where I asked in a poll what they would rate the chapter. And the results are pretty unanimous, as at the time of this script's writing, 14 people who participated all voted it as peak. And before reading anything, I'm just going to take a guess. It is because of Turbo Granny's return and the Momo Okarun fan service with a smattering of the insane art going on with this chapter, since we have a pretty thriving art community on my server. I think most people in my server are artists in some way or form. Which, honestly makes me kind of jealous that you guys can draw so much. I mean, I did like a Frylock, but then again, I can play guitar and bass like Satan. So, yeah. I'm good at art in some ways, I suppose. Yeah, so the fan service bit was a really big hit with my viewers, both because of the humor it provided, but also because it has more shit materials for my server. Also, got a couple of mentions for Turbo Granny's return. Nothing, major or anything outside of the fact that I'm pretty sure every single person mentioned it this morning, and it is the reason it had everyone in my server give it the highest rating, probably. I'm so excited. I'm tripping over my words. I think this speaks to how much we really missed our Maneki Neko. I think looking back at this year of Dandadan, or at least a little over a year, this portion probably will be seen as missing something and feeling a bit darker than it was. And I think it's clear to see how that is evident. We got plenty of dark storylines like Koki Yuki Shiro's introductory arc, the small Momo incident, which I'm pretty sure inspired Yuji Itadori to kill Sukuna, and of course the introduction of the Kurbaddy and the Inra, who have a unique edge to the both of them, with the Kurbaddy having a, slight exception with her having that motherly energy in recent times. I don't know, do you guys think I should do a retrospective look back at this arc? it could be something different, you know, unique content for the channel, and a bit of a opportunity to flesh things out during the holiday season. Do let me know in the comments. Next Dandadan is on hiatus since we won't have a new chapter. This chapter, I mean, it was just so detailed and so high quality that I think our guys and gals working on the series have earned a big old break and a big old virtual hug from not just the Dumb community that we have going on here, but the entire Dandadan community. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Also, join my Discord, join my Discord, join my Discord, join my Discord. If you haven't already, join my Discord. Make it a great day or not. The choice is to join my Discord.